Welcome to Jessica M. Harris's YouTube channel. That's me. Super excited for you to be here today with me. I highly encourage you to go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the channel. If you have not already done so, click that bell above so you can be notified anytime a new video gets dropped. Today, we're going to be focusing on sharing your story. Yes, you have a whole story that is inside of you that is getting ready to be shared. I truly believe it. But before you can share your story, I highly recommend you to start documenting your journey. Yes, sometimes we go through life day by day, we go through events, we go through situations, whatever the case is, but we forget to take time to document it. We forget to take time to write about it. We forget to take time to write about the highlights, the downloads, and everything else in between because we're just going through it. Well, I want you to take some time starting today to put a pause, right? Call a time out on life right quick. And I want you to say, hey, I need to be writing about this. I need to be documenting this. I need to be journaling this. And you may be wondering, well, why? That's a great question. I truly believe that our stories are here not just for ourselves, but for those who are coming after us. I believe that our stories are for those who are attached to us. I believe our stories are to glorify God. Come on now. And in order to glorify God, we have to document it in some way, shape, or form. And in doing so, it's going to allow other people to be able to hear them so they can be able to be encouraged through their own journeys of faith and whatever else they may be going through. Many of you have found this channel through my Texas video. I already had a YouTube channel. My YouTube channel has been up since February of 2022. It didn't start to gain attraction until I really started to talk about the Texas journey. And that's when things started to change. People started to hear the story and they started to be encouraged by it. And they started to see how God could do something for one that he can then do for another. And the same thing is said about your own stories in your own journeys as well. What God is doing in your life, he may be doing something very similar in someone else's. And that person may need to be encouraged right now wherever they are to get to the next step. And that lies within you because you may have already been there. You may have already overcome it. Or you could be going through it right now, but the ways in which you're able to go through it may encourage them to know that if she can, you can too. And that's why you want to be documenting this journey, along with a whole host of other reasons, because I truly believe that our stories are a blueprint, right, to help other people get through their lives in different situations. That's a whole nother conversation in my head because that was that was a conversation from last year that had came up and I was like, I remembered that. I love that concept. Anyways, so for those of you who may be wondering, well, how do I get started with documenting? It's easy. Grab a journal, grab a pen, and honestly, get writing. I highly encourage those of you who may be new to the journaling concept to take 15 to 30 minutes a day. Find a quiet place in your home or vehicle, whichever one honestly makes more sense for you, and just write and just write. Yeah, I would say pick a time of day. I like to do the early morning. So for me, the wee hours of the morning is like the high time for me, but for you, it may be different. Whatever the case is, take that time, 15 to 30 minutes, no distractions, no kids, no TV, no social media, right? And just your journal with God. And just start to write. Just start to write. The word prose was coming to me earlier. And prose is basically just a resemblance of spoken language. The same way that I'm speaking to you right now, just write just like that. Whether it's about your day, whether it's about a specific situation, whether it's about a specific, highlighted moment that took place, whether recently or in the past, start to write about it. And I truly believe that in the writing, one, there's freedom, there's healing, right? God meets us in different situations and in different ways. So this also clears up space in your mind for him to bring new downloads to you as well. And it also makes space for that situation, that idea to have more clarity brought to you on it. Sometimes we're going through something and we're not sure why. For me, I found that when I'm writing about it, I'm able to gain more clarity. I'm able to gain more perspective on it, right? And then I'm praying about it. I'm praying about whatever it is that I'm journaling about. So if there is specific events that are taking place in my life, my writings or my journaling, right, are typically tend to be conversations that I'm having with God. I'm writing them in a way where I'm like, God, today was rough. I don't know. It's been a lot going on, God. It's just so much taking place in this world. Like, my writings are just conversations to God. Your journaling can be as simple as that. And there's times where God will highlight a specific moment in my past to me. And I have to do the same thing. Get my pen. Okay, well, today as I was, and I'll literally write it, like today as I was writing, I was remembering about a time when I was 5 years old, and then I'll start writing about that whole experience, about whatever that specific encounter was that was coming to mind, whatever that memory was. I'll start writing about it. And as I start to write about it, more starts to come up, and I just write them more. And if there's questions that I have, I write my questions out. And I do that until I feel a release, right? That I'm like, okay, there's no more. I'm good. Done. Now, the 15 to 30 minutes part of it, I like to suggest that time frame for it because that gives enough time, in my opinion, to really develop a flow. It's also good for those who may just be starting out. For me, I like to journal for like an hour, but I don't know if everyone has an hour to spend right away, right? So it may be helpful to start out with the 15 to 30 minutes. And then as you start to do more and more of it, you can start to stretch out that time. But you want to be able to just start getting into the habits of having that. And in that 15 to 30 minutes, it doesn't have to just strictly be the writing part. So for me, how I had did mine was I did it with praise and worship with God. I would do that first. Praise and worship, meditation, reading the word. And then if there were certain Bible scriptures that were highlighted to me, I would start writing about it. And if there was certain downloads or perspectives that I would gain from it, I would start writing about it. And then what I was going through would start to come up and I would be writing about it. So I would tie all that together for my journaling time. So it'll be the Bible scriptures plus what was going on in the world or with myself or what God was saying, whatever the case was, right? I would just be journaling all of that together because in my case, a lot of that tied together. So that would just be like one massive focal point, which is probably why I write for like an hour or more, right? Because it's not just one component. But for those who may be starting out, you can start with Bible scriptures that God is giving you and how they're highlighted to you. And you can write down why you feel like they're being highlighted to you. And you can do it with, what's going on in your life and what's going on this day or any downloads that you're getting, right? So whatever it is that's coming to you, start to write those down. The same thing with those of you who are getting visions and dreams, right? Or maybe you're seeing an increase in them. Write those down as well. Start to write down the vision. Start to write down the dreams, right? Excuse me. My bad, y'all. But yes, write down the visions, write down the dreams, and the same rule applies. Start to ask God the questions about them, I don't know, why X, Y, and Z? What does this mean? Like whatever the case is, right? And then the same thing, write all of that down. And that's documenting the journey because on your journey, he's giving you visions and dreams. On your journey, you're getting visions. On your journey, you're experiencing X, Y, and Z. On your journey, he's healing you from past things. So as you're writing, don't be surprised if old memories start to come to you. Don't ignore them. Instead, start to write them down. And ask God, what is it in this memory that he's trying to show you? For me in specific, I know that there's memories of events that he's shown me from my past where I have had to literally sit down and write about everything that came to mind. And it was like the way he did it, it was like, I'm trying to think of an example. All right, the most recent one I had to do was miscarriage, right? So I had a miscarriage a few years ago before my daughter was born. And he didn't give me miscarriage. He gave me the scene of that morning of the miscarriage. I could see the picture. And then I just started writing about that day. And as I wrote about that day, he started giving me more. So say the scene that I was looking at was just at my house. He would give me the scene at the hospital. So then I would write about the hospital scene. Then he would give me the scene about, the doctor's office, right? I would write about that specific part. Then there would be a scene about, my manager at my job when I was trying to call in that day because I couldn't go to work. And I was writing about that part. And then there was another scene about X, right? So it was like all those pieces. So it was like scene 1, scene 2, scene 3, scene 4, scene 5. Now that's in my journaling. But peep this, right? As he gave me these 5 scenes here, and I'm using this as an example. Sorry. I'm laughing. I'm laughing because I can see what he's doing with me with this piece. And I'm like, oh yeah, duh. Anyways, yes. So basically he gave me those 5 scenes, right? Those different situations of that specific event. And I wrote about each one in my journal. Now that that scene is done, I have a book. Y'all peep that? I have a book. It's a whole book. Why? Because he gave me the main focus. He gave me the chapters for these pieces. And then all I have to do now is come up with a title. Well, I have a title. Yeah, I have a title already because he gave me a title that day that all that had came to me, right? But that was as simple as my journaling turned into a book that is going to be written because, yeah, he just confirmed it. But it's that concept, right? Now, does that mean that all of you are going to write books? In my head, I'm going to say yes. In some way, shape, or form, I truly believe that everybody's story is a book, in all honesty. That's just my opinion. Do I believe that a lot of the stories will become movies? Yes. Yes. Because life be feeling like a movie sometimes. But that's just Jessica's perspective on it, y'all. But do I believe that you have the ability to form it? 100%. 100%. 100%. And the reason why I talk about this part right here is because there's many of you who have been called to write a book about this, that, or the third. And maybe you're kind of like, I don't know. I feel like I'm supposed to be writing a book on something, but I really don't know about what. It honestly may very well be your life. Yep. It may very well be your life. And the fun part about doing it is that the way that you think it's going to happen may not look anything the way that it comes out. And I can say this with confidence because he did that with me. Now, does that mean that's going to be everybody's story? No, because yours may be something different. But I know he did that with me, and I thought it was priceless because it was like, huh? For real? Wait, what? But that's what God did with me. And it was with this book right here. On this book here, I literally journaled. I was already journaling for like a year about the breakup, about me leaving my job, about me with my children, and so much more, and just the ways in which things were at the house. I had already started journaling that, not daily, but like, intermittently and whatnot. I was already doing it. And when I was already doing the journaling for that part, it was like, okay, I have all these journal entries. I've made all these things. But at that time, I had no idea that those journal entries were getting ready to form a book. I had no idea. I just knew that I was writing. And then there was a point in November of 2021 where it was like, your book is called X, Y, and Z. Pain tried to bury me alive, but God revived me. And I'm like, huh? Okay, so what is this book about? And then he started to highlight different events to me that had taken place that year. And I went through old journals and I realized, oh, I wrote about that and about this and about that. I was like, wait, what? So I started to freehand write, the memories that were coming to me, and I was looking at my journal, looking at the pieces that I wrote and writing about the different events and writing about more pieces that I wrote and writing about those different events. And I was like, wow. Now this was the twist, right? I wrote them out in paragraph forms, standard paragraphs, because that's how I thought it was going to be. And it was in February of last year, 2022, where I was like, I'm done. The book is written. I'm excited. It's finished. Yay. Woohoo. Right? I could celebrate. My book is finished. It was edited and everything. I did the edits. I edited it and everything. And then I had put the book down for like 2 or 3 weeks. And then it was like the last week of February where I picked the book up again and I went through it and I was like, wait, I had to, he had me redo some pieces. And when he had me redo them, the way that he had me redo the pieces was that it went from looking like journal entries to poetry. He transformed my writing for me. And it was because he was taking the journal entries of healing that needed to happen and transforming them into healed verses of where I was today. So when you read the book, when you read my devotion, right? When you read this memoir, you're not just reading a bitter woman story. You're reading the story of a woman who was healed and transformed. So although it was written in one capacity, he transformed it into another. And that transformation didn't just happen in the book writing, it happened internally as well. So there was pieces in me that was able to see past what I had been through to be able to write in a healed version. I remember my ex was like, he didn't want to read the book. He was like, no, because I'm pretty sure you bashed me. And I said, I didn't bash you. Nope. For those who have read my book, I didn't bash him at all in there because it wasn't about him. The book wasn't about him. It was about him and the experience, but it wasn't about him and he wasn't the focal point of the book. And that was part of the healing journey that God did with me with writing. My journey being documented allowed me to write things that I'm like, wow, I didn't even know this was there. So I share all of this to say that however you write today in your journal doesn't mean that that's going to be the very way of which it will be presented to the world. Just because it has names, just because it has experiences, just because it has all the nitty gritty, gory stuff inside of it right now, doesn't mean that the ways in which he will have it presented to the world will look that way. Healing is everything. God wants to get the glory out of the story. So he's going to heal you of whatever it is that you have been through to be able to show the world that it was nothing but God who did it. This book showed me and the world that it was nothing but God who was able to heal me, transform me, and grow me. Essentially, mature me. But I share this with you all because you have to understand that there is so much that's tied to your story, and there's so much that's tied to what is brewing inside of you, and not to allow the thoughts of other people to get in the way. So for those of you who may have had people, hint, hint, teachers, parents, right? Friends, family members tell you that you are a good for nothing. Those who may have told you, I don't even know how you were able to graduate high school. I was told that. I was told that the day that I walked across my high school stage by the principal. She was the assistant principal who then became a principal, our headmaster. And I remember her telling me as she gave me my high school diploma, she looked at me and was like, I don't even, instead of saying congratulations, she said, I don't even know how you was able to graduate. And yet here I am, a whole author with a publishing company, coaching, everything, right? That's a whole other story that I will break down to you guys later. But I shared that tidbit because I want you to understand that it doesn't matter about the amount of people who have tried to put you down or those who have tried to come against the very vision that's inside of you. Know that God has purposed you with a purpose, and that purpose shall come forth. So regardless of what has tried to come against you, any strife and things of that nature, God is redeeming and restoring time. So receive the healing that he wants to do in you. Receive the healing that he is going to do inside of you, and be willing to surrender everything back to him. Because at the end of the day, we're vessels for the Lord. We're here to give him glory, right? Not to glorify ourselves, but to give him glory. So our stories are gonna do just that. And that's the same thing with the healing that is needed. That's the same thing with you journaling. That's the same thing with all them dreams and visions and everything else in between that he gives you, because he's doing something magnificent with you. So I have talked much longer than I anticipated, but that's okay. I am going to say this. So today is February the 13th, and we are getting ready to do we're going to do a journey challenge. We're going to do a journal your journey challenge. Today will be day 1. I'm going to do a separate video that is going to have your journal prompt on there. And I am encouraging all of you who are tuning in to join me on this challenge. More is going to be dropped in the next video, but I hope you all have an amazing day. All right, bye for now.